All right, George, I'm back again. I looked at the rest of your assignment. It looks like you did well on the rest of it, but I wanted to talk about this one graph that we didn't talk about at all. Okay, thanks. Number 3 on your little sheet, and it looks like that, and it's a position versus time graph. And this is in seconds, and this is in meters per second. But this time it's not a sweet straight line. So before, when you had this going on, that was a piece of cake. You took the slope of the line, life was a piece of cake, no big deal. Now what you have here is you have a curve. So it's kind of the same, except some oddities we need to point out. So in this situation right here, as 1 second, if I wanted to look at the speed at 1 second, I would take the slope of a line drawn tangent right there and take that slope, and that would be the average speed right there, or also called the instantaneous velocity at 1 second. And then if I went over here 4 seconds, and I looked at that, there would be the slope of that line. If I went up here, and I looked at that, there would be the slope of that line. So you can see that it's getting steeper and steeper. This slope was not as this line was not as steep as this line, which is not as steep as this one. So obviously something's happening so that the instantaneous velocity is getting greater and greater. So the object has to be speeding up, because that's the only way the slope is going to get larger and larger. Has to be speeding up. If that is true, then this curve will always indicate acceleration if we are looking at a position versus time graph. I should have said on position versus time graph. Okay, so because it's getting steeper and steeper, that means the instantaneous speed is getting higher and higher, and all you're going to do is take the slope of that line and draw a line as best you can tangent to that point of interest. And if I look at that worksheet that you were given, let me see if I can look at that real quick. Okay, it looks like to me it's that she says determine the instantaneous velocity is 8 seconds. At t is equal to 8 seconds, describe the motion of the object on the graph, determine the average velocity for the entire motion on the graph. So the average velocity for the entire motion on the graph is going to be the total distance traveled divided by the total time taken. Okay, so you could go to your graph and look at your total distance is 400 and your total time was 11. So 400 meters over 11 seconds would give you the average velocity. Okay. And then you can take a, draw a B versus T graph to the right. On that, you had to plot the velocity versus time, so you take all the slopes at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 seconds, and then draw a line to show how that velocity occurred during that time, how it was increasing. Okay, then I looked at the ones that are 29 and 30 and 31, and those 32, and those looked relatively good. Nice job there, buddy. And then you had to find the area under the curve on a velocity versus time graph, and then so you did that well. Very impressive. And then you had to plot an acceleration versus time graph for the sections above, and all you did was take the slope of the line, so it looks like you did nicely there. And looks like you're doing well there. Yeah, I think you got this, dude. So I'm going to post this little bit of a video, and then I'll email you and tell you what I did. Take care. And pay attention, and don't go in there with the attitude of, oh, I got a private tutor, I don't need to pay attention to this teacher. You got to pay attention, buddy, okay? But please also don't wait until the night before the test to study. Study along as you get through the course. And one other word to the wise, units on every single number. I know it's a drag, I know it's a pain in the backside, too bad, so sad, because if you will do the units, if you don't even know what's going on, a lot of times the units will give you a big old fat clue if you're smart enough to have units. So don't be hesitant to use those units. I know it's not what you wanted to hear, but it's the truth. And I always took off lots of points for not giving me units. So make sure you give your teacher units. Okay, talk to you later. Bye, cutie.